Here we are. Welcome to our Thursday book launch. Today, we're super excited, and we've got some new faces that came just for you, Kathryn. So you have brought out some fun people that we haven't had in our community before. And then, of course, we've got our beautiful regulars. My name is Malika Albrecht, and I'm the founding editor of Redheaded Stepchild. We only publish poems that have been rejected. And we are actually open for submissions. So if you've ever been rejected, I know that's hard for, gosh, how many stacks, right? In any event, but yeah, back in the day when we used to get them, printed and it would come in the mail, a friend of mine was like, we should probably do something with this, like wallpaper or room or whatever. Now it's all virtual. It's just not as much fun, but I could have rolled it out and probably done like my whole driveway, which is a pretty long rural driveway with just rejections. Um, but super excited to hear Kathryn Weld read from After Images. Kathryn Weld is a writer and mathematician living in Pleasantville, New York. Y'all missed a behind the scenes story from Andrea about, well, I'm sorry, you just missed it. She is the author of After Image, which was published by Pine Row Press in 2023, and also a chapbook, Walking Light, Cattywampus Press, which came out in 2019. Her poetry and prose appear in journals such as the American Book Review, the Cortland Review, Gyroscope Review, the Southeast Review, and elsewhere. And I'm going to put her website so that you can go directly there. And Kathryn, if that's a place where we can order books that are signed, let me know. And that way I can send people that way.
Yeah, I can set that up. I haven't. I'll put my Gmail up on there, and then people
Perfect.
can get it from me there. Yeah.
Perfect. And the website I'll put in there, but it's kathrynweld.com. I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you so much for letting us celebrate with you. I'm looking forward to today.
Well, thank you so much, Malika. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm moving a little bit slowly right now, since I broke my wrist on Monday. So I'll do my best to find the right pages. I was also going to read a couple of new poems, but maybe since you're recording this, I'm gonna hold off on that, since they haven't been accepted yet. So the book is a sort of long process of the work I undertook when I started going back from my MFA, and it took a long time in the making. During that time, my parents were aging, and in the end, the book is probably a book of elegies, broadly speaking, not just to them. Both of them suffered with dementia of different kinds, and it has its black moments, but also its happy moments. I'm going to start with the first poem in the book, which is people learn that glaciers moved years after a guide is lost. He fell, it snowed, the crevice closed. Children were born. It snowed some more. They grew, married. It was June when the arm and hand appeared in the village, ejected from the glacier's base. The flesh, still white and firm. They knew his ring. Old men felt privileged to see their friend, to bid him leave. Our lost ones linger halfway down some blue-walled crevasse, nowhere to hold. Who knows if they notice when sun scrapes noon? What part, preserved by ice, might reappear? Thanks. A lot of these poems are set in the sort of long, rather extraordinary summer home that my parents bought back in 1964. Lake access, no road at all, not winterized. That's actually where I am right now, and it's cold. And this poem describes the process of closing up for winter, one of the first summers that my mother was no longer able to come up to camp. It's called Winterizing. A sibilance from flexing steel. The ancient oven door no longer locks for self-cleaning. So I steam the char loose by pouring white vinegar on the hot enamel floor. The metal sighs, a sharp release of tannic vapor. Everyone wants liminal, the deep, profound, but it's time to put the house to bed. Between glass and screen, clouds of egg sacs. Come, vacuum. Bye, spiders. The casual mess of summer corralled and packed. Suddenly, I realize each bone of my finger is vulnerable. And this is Upstate Winter Weekend, describing a sort of late fall visit to my father-in-law's house in upstate New York. A torrent of flakes curtains the windshield, erasing everything visible as we drive steady past Albany along the Mohawk, up the long hill, night and snow falling together as they do up north. Then the mousy house, the old man ranting, newspapers piled on the floor. They tore down the barracks of the 10th Mountain Division, he rails. In the living room, insulated and closed for winter, the ceiling crumbles. Threshers in their gilded frame still mow the hay. The jigsaw puzzle waits, unfinished. My own knees stiffen. We hear again about the crossing of the Alps. He is 103. Some days he talks nothing but the glad light in the trees. My husband catches mice. He lets one go behind the house. How far is far enough, he asks. And this poem is Seedbed. I wrote this very early on when I finally gone back to writing at a workshop with Henri Cole, and Henri had this teaching method where he would give you like 4 completely zany words and tell you to work them into a poem. And I think this was one of them, but then afterwards you might have to sort of cut the words out because they didn't fit. Seedbed. It begins with daughter, the golden thread of parasitic stem twining into an orange hairnet. Pull down, bindweed, devil's guts, hellvine. I cannot find you. Blackness roots in the cold frame of your mind. One by one, each green branch withers and falls, making room for what? Your hand is doe-skin soft and pillowy. Where, I ask? You point, then articulate, Forsythia. I prefer to think it ends with Forsythia, cheery alien harbinger of spring. On that good early day, bloom and dead leaves. This poem is meditating on Merton's Fire Watch. I don't know if you are readers of Merton, But in one of his books, he has the last chapter is called The Sign of Jonas, and he describes going out into the monastery in the middle of the night, checking the rooms for fire. His flashlight lumines walls of rough-cut pine, the chapel murals, electric wire in fraying sheath. No sign of fire. He slips past dozing monks, muffled feet on tower stairs, looks out on the forest. Cicadas trill at low moon. And forest doth. Fire may smolder underground for days before it catches en route, ignites. The blazing tree speaking, I am that I am. Or it may go out, leaving a pocket of char, warm to touch and smoky sweet. One bitter desert night, hooves deafened the wash. We couldn't see the bodies, manes, or ears. I can tell you the air pulsed. I can tell you we were cold. Deafness means when I address mother, she talks too, as if I'm not here, although she sits with me. I do not expect flame. She is not here, and she is here. Dry wash and hooved sand. I am waiting in the woken wood. This is Envy of Farm Animals, written after a trip to Rockefeller Preserve, where, you know, the goats and the sheep are out there with their babies. Unabashed and frankly dirty, the sow snorts of freedom I do not allow myself. Can I still become undone? Oh, my body, you are crank and reed. Midge lives 3 grown days. The black bravado of his plumed antennae, her coy chartreuse, they couple on my thumb. Oh, breath and hand, stay still. On hooves, kids tiptoe maternal flanks, balance on bony ribs as the dam's flick flies away. Oh, children, you are gone. Across the swales, exhumed and shorn, blue dogs still tolerate their lambs. Oh, mother, your yellow eyes still narrow in response to light. This is called The Margins. My mother wore red lipstick to match the gown with plunging neckline, gathered skirt. Mother loved a hardware store, 9-penny nails in bins to sell by weight. She baked with phyllo dough, sewed tailored suits. And me, I'd be a flower picker, coral bells and violets. Everyone said, no one is a flower picker. But mother said, perhaps you could. You were my dear little girl. As a girl herself, her mother longed to be a painter, but her oils, the covered bridge, the still life's azure vase with fruit. Not good enough, her father, Walter said, and architecture, not a field for women. She studied chemistry for 2 years, left for marriage, divorce in Reno, second marriage, children, became the lab technician, kept meticulous accounts, Loved to chat with workmen, electricians, watch them work. She paid for my private painting lessons, a loan indulgence. I snacked on milk and pecan sandies, learned to soak the grainy paper, then brush with color. She has talent, said her father. So I painted lake and mountain, the blue lake and mountain over and again. Vermilion green pigment crept across the filmy margins of docks and trees, my outline becoming lost. Says, what if you look up? Day itself shivers, and you surrender to a deep, deep wish to touch an arm, just an arm, a sweaty one, or one with brown curls of hair, not the most receptive limb, but robust, capable of lifting an oak dresser. What if on Tuesday your most remembered act was scraping and sanding an old nightstand, tender application of paint named Earl Grey, renewal with a small foam brush? What if you see things backwards? Perceive land as blue and mountain green? What the blue swale and the red rumped ewes and the inverted mountain are not the bounty of your imagination, but signals that your lived day is too lean. This is the title poem of the book, After Image. So difficult to see as new the made bed, broom straw, egg. A camera palters, spatchcock's light to speckle shade. The mind makes decoupage, ballerina, oil rig, trout. Canyon walls, broadcasts, spare artifacts the old ones left behind. What stays? A girl's finger tracing her mother's mouth. And I think I'm going to end with building the new room, which, well, this is an old place and it takes lots of maintenance. And this commemorates that act. At first, the floorboards, pitted, slopped with paint, seemed worthless. We pried them out and found beneath the joists stumps of old trees, hatchet chopped and silvery with age. Ruddy bark adhered to the roots. We had no choice but torque shoulders and knees into the crawl space to muster saws, shovels, crowbars. To dig them out was sweaty, dirty work in sand the neighbor's cat claimed for his own. Litany of vapor seals and fiberglass, the squeal of screw in ply. When we planed the shabby boards, hardened gobs of white lead, wrinkled paint florets, enduring layers of varnish flew off in a shower of acrid dust, leaving some dimpled planks clear, others traced with flourishes of a green stain that now, in the new laid floor, sings the lineage of reclaimed wood. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Kathy. If people want to unmute, please do so. We can take a moment just to say, holy smoke.
Beautiful.
Yes. I'm taking a minute. I know a lot of us were talking about, hearing the poems read as, several in a row. Kathy, that was just really powerful. And I think one of the things that I suddenly really wanted to ask you about your process, because, we would have these beautiful images and then suddenly things would turn on their head, and I would feel like I was catapulted out of the everyday into something very profound. And I just kept thinking, what a keen mind that's speaking in these poems. Um, and I mean, what is your process? How do you edit? And are these leaps that you take just something that comes natural to you, or something that you purposefully honed?
I guess, so someone asked me this recently in an interview that I did, something similar to this. And I think, let me see if I can resurrect that answer. So I once asked, I once asked an editor, how you know what a poem is really about. And she said, well, you listen to the consonants. The consonants tell you what the poem is about. But taking that a step further, you also listen to the images that you're attracted to write. And then it's maybe not quite enough to just be descriptive, but really, what are these really speaking to in your own life? I think that's where the leap comes from. Really just trying to listen to what those images are really speaking about on a different level.
Just amazing. Thank you for talking to that. I noticed there's a lot of people that are, writing in. If I missed a question, please, just jump in. We're pretty casual here. So just unmute and ask a question.
The subtext was in that last poem particularly, and it makes sense that it's a title piece, is so thoughtful. Sorry, my signal's going, but yeah, the images of the wood and the reclamation, and that you had to dig those out. It's yeah, it's beautiful.
Thanks.
Juan, jump in.
I just wanted to say, and perhaps this is a question about your choices poetically, but I was particularly impressed throughout your poems with how present you are in the poems, and yet how soft-spoken the I is. How it never takes us away to pay attention to you, but it's it's the observer is ever so present. And I don't know if this is something that comes naturally to you or was something you intended.
Yeah, I think I'm naturally reticent and understated. So I don't know how to, I'm just going to say thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, well put, Juan, because that's another aspect to listening to these poems that is so lovely and powerful. And if we don't have any more questions, jump in. Yes, Barbara.
Only
please.
to say that thank you that I'm here, and I want to make a special statement of how much I appreciate there's something simple and authentic, because so much writing is about drama and creating, adjectives and adverbs, and you're just right there, and somehow the presence in the present brings in this other dimension that is, I felt it. I mean, I felt you, I felt them, and I thank you.
Well, thank you, Barbara, and it's really lovely to see you here.
Yeah, Barbara, you just kind of expressed something that Karen wrote in the chat section. She said, I love how frank these poems are, so heartfelt and tender and frank. I'm so moved by the voice in these poems. And we all seem to have this really strong draw towards some almost undefinable. It makes me think of meditative, but I think it's more about like being really present, but not centered. It's a really amazing craft, and I also think it speaks to a keen mind and a very compassionate heart, of the poet. Really, really wonderful to like be a part of hearing them, and to just have a lot of awe for the craft, and then also the humanity, the experience of how it is to care for parents, and all of that just makes this powerful. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Just checking to make sure no more questions.
I
And
just,
yes, Marilyn.
I just wanted to say that I've heard these poems before, and they really hold up. They're really nice to hear over and over again. There's subtleties in them that can be uncovered over time. And that's really, I think, part of the skill is that layering. It's good, Kathy.
Thank you, Marilyn. Well, I'm very excited to hear what people are going to bring to the open mic too. So
Awesome. Wanda, did you have something?
Yeah, you want me to read a poem? Yeah.
Oh, yes, we'll come back to, I thought you had a question for
Oh,
Kathy.
no,
I
no,
thought
no,
I had.
no. Oh,
Okay,
and
good. I wanted to make sure I didn't cut you off.
I prefer to
and
know first. Okay.
We're good. If you, okay. So I know Kathy was talking about reading a new poem, and could I pause it and us just hear one new poem? Is that selfish to say?
sure.
Yay. Okay, let me pause. Give me just a moment so that okay. That's so sad they don't get to hear it, but Kathy, it'll get published and then they can read it.
Yeah.
We're gonna head towards open mic. And
Here and there a human kneeling in a bed directs a vine, smooths the ground.
Oh,
Stop.
I think we've got,
Frog's base.
there we go. You're fine, Marilyn. I was like, is that fine? All right, guys, we're heading to open mic, and I only have 2 people written down, and so raise your hand. We'll start with Shamala, then we're going to, and I got you, Regina. Thank you. Going to Shamala first.
Hey,
There
well,
you
this is a new poem, not published, but by the time it goes out somewhere, I'm sure it's going to change. So here we go. Gentle reader, are you bored? Somewhere in another universe, Cortez, Pizarro, Columbus, de Albuquerque, and the East India Company, to name just a few, stayed home, thus sparing millions of lives. Or instead of conquest, traveled for curiosity and wonder. What if the British had taken from Asia only the concept of food with actual taste in exchange for standardized education and rubber trees? Or Spain and Portugal hadn't spilled quite so much blood, but instead only took the knowledge of tomatoes and squash, rather than undertaking mass slaughter in the quest for gold? What if, in the process of learning how to talk and make fire, we had also learned how to not kill each other, how to not prioritize possession over pretty much everything else? What then? It's such a big leap, I can't really imagine what or who we would be. Perhaps a completely different species? Just think popular movies might have a less boring range. A sci-fi flick might actually speculate about different ways of being, rather than endlessly inventing enemies, boringly the same, who need to be fought because we've forgotten how to center more interesting conflicts, more meaningful ones. The creation of the perfect rose, the cure for this or that disease, a universal language, or universally equally accessible anything. It's such a reach I have trouble even imagining it. And that, gentle reader, is an example of a difficulty worth grappling with.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you.
Thank you. That, powerful. Thank you for reading that. Juan, I'm coming to you next. It's got my brain spinning. Thanks, Shamala.
All right. Just very briefly, this poem is called On the Eve of King's Coming. It has to do with the Three Kings Day, which I just realized was January 6th, like the terrible event at the Capitol. Anyway, on the eve of King's coming, it was there in the small bookstore, the glossy and glorious Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. When I told my mother I was destined to receive it, she seemed grim. Her hands, always so ready to bring her words to life, were quiet, and her lips whispered no. I was aghast, incensed, words a young boy did not know but felt. And I walked away and slammed the door of the small room my brother and I share. By then I knew I wounded her. I was a stable boy, although oblivious to the fact we did not have much money. Who's worthy of a sacred sword if he made his mother sad? That afternoon I cowered, went to bed early, and if I dream, I don't remember. The next morning, reaching for my sneakers, my hand bumped against something wrapped in the same paper she used at Christmas for my socks. I ran to hug her, kissed her, but something far stronger than Excalibur had inflicted its scar. We never talked about it, but I knew that Camelot has fallen.
Oh, Juan. Yeah, see, Kathy, I think I probably should have warned everybody, if you haven't been here before, our open mics are always fire. Week after week, I don't know how y'all do it, but here we are. Regina, I'm coming to you. Yay.
Hi. So I haven't read from my book in a minute. And this poem that I'm going to read is actually a poem that was nominated for a push cart. Still waiting on my letter, right? Anyway, and it is on a subject that I is constantly on my mind. I'm an English professor, but I am also an aficionado of history, and I'm concerned about the banning of histories. As we ban books, we ban histories. The title of this poem is "The Fire That Consumes the Burnings of Black Histories." Have you ever seen a fire, the kind that consumes a house, a block, a street, a community, a town, a nation? Have you ever stretched fingers towards fire just because you wanted to feel the last gust of breath before the flames melted mortar from brick, wood from steel, skin from meat, from sinew, from bone? Have you ever jumped at the crack and splinter before the crash, hid your face to escape the blowing soot, covered your nose to block the smell of escaping gases, the incineration of flesh, squeezed eyes shut to restrain the release of tears? Fire destroys completely everything except memory. Those who have lived through the fire never forget that all that was lost cannot be returned, cannot be restored, pre-fire life flickering in memory. Have you ever known the indignity of stolen memory, of erasure of thought, a disallowing of necessary history passed on from mind to mind, no collective storage, trash as disposable waste, Scores of nations and families of people relegated to one layer of life lived, while other layers burned away, withdrawn from the light of day. Layers that could have lit the illumination of minds, the awareness of conditions, the recognition of irreverence and unrighteousness, the tackling of generational traumas, the overcoming of fear, the pride of resilience, layers of heated memory deemed villainous, tossed into the ashes by thieves, those who dread the power that it brings, and the rise of indomitable spirits from the embers.
Yes. I forgot to tell people, check the chat section because there are responses being written to everyone's amazing work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I just want to say one thing that poem, I forgot, I usually say it in the beginning, was actually in reference to the burnings that have occurred around the country for just ages. And particularly, I was watching something on the Tulsa massacre, and that kind of stirred that up. How that whole street, that whole way of life, that whole community was gone, and people didn't even know that it existed. Black Wall Street.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Black Wall Street. And you know, I mean the power of how you did that poem with the destruction, but you know, memory is there, and that there are things that rise up and get circled back around where people get to reclaim, but it's a lot of work when so much has been destroyed purposefully to silence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can understand. Yeah, no wonder there's a pushcart nomination. So anybody that wanted to read that I did not get your name for, because I noticed Donna's here and Karen's here. No pressure, Laura.
I can read one. I can read one.
Fabulous. Donna, I'll come to you.
Okay.
Here we go.
This poem was my father's brother told me one time. He said every time he comes to see his mother, she just pulls out everything, you know, does all this wonderful stuff, and that doesn't happen for us. And his name was Donnie, and he never really cared for the name Donnie because, you know, he liked Don better. It sounded more dignified. But the reason he was named Donnie is because a woman down they were he and his brothers were raised on tenant farms. He and his mother almost died when he was born, and the midwife came to stay with them, and her name was Donnie Way. So he was named after her, and I always said he was lucky his name wasn't Sue. So this poem is called Haw River. That's where their tenant farm was. When Donnie came to visit, his mother Lillian put on a feed, baked her famous Raleigh State Fair pound cake, fried apple pies, sent Uncle John to the tobacco shed for a molded country ham, rolled out cathead biscuits dusted in flour to soak up a mess of sawmill gravy, hollered for a random grandchild to pluck a warm green melon from Crawford's field. After we ate, she dropped the melon from high above the picnic table. It fell in pieces like joy.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you, Donna. And I love that I just see strong on your t-shirt, and I think, yeah, that's appropriate.
It's strong mother.
Strong as a mother, huh? Get
Yeah.
even better.
Yeah, you know how that feels after all you've been through.
Yes, ma'am. I was still standing. That was now I'm starving too. And again, people check the chat section because you know, you get to see what's resonating with everybody. Was there anybody that I missed? Because if not, we can all unmute and talk.
Well, I
All
can
right.
talk about something. You know, Jackie Shelton Green has an exhibit at the Mint Museum in Charlotte on September 4th is the opening. And I got the book. It is absolutely gorgeous. not only the poetry that's in it, but the book itself is very unique and beautiful. So if you get an opportunity, I think you have to email Richard Krawiak at Jack Har Press to get the book. But it is just to tell you, it's phenomenal, and I know this exhibit will be equally phenomenal.
Thank you, Donna. That's a very important one. And that production of that limited edition
Oh.
is really well done. Anybody else have news or something we could celebrate with? North Carolina Poetry Society meeting in Asheville.
Oh, yes. we should
I
play
was
that.
prompting y'all.
That's right. That's something. It's September the 14th. It will be at the Arboretum. You don't have to be a member of the North Carolina Poetry Society to attend the meeting. We anticipate that it will be a good time will be had by all. It is like awards day. So there will be readings done by people who have won various awards. I know the Jackie Shelton Green Performance Poetry Award.
With the North Carolina Literary Review.
Right, yes.
Right?
Right. Sponsored by North Carolina Literary Review and the North Carolina Poetry Society. It's kind of a joint thing, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
And then, but there are others. Karen, can you help me remember?
The afternoon workshop is it at Crafstick? No, that's not correct.
Oh my gosh. I'm lost.
Sorry, guys. We'll just leave it at that. Go to the North Carolina Poetry Society website. You can also order, a meal, I think, in advance, but we'll be in Asheville at the Arboretum, Saturday, September 14th. If there's nobody else that wants to read, we can take a moment to thank Kathy once again for coming here and letting us celebrate with her and reading amazing poems, and also the brand new one. And then thanking everybody that's here, creating our community, and the people that read for Open Mic. Thank you. It's good to be in your company.
Thank you, everyone, for coming, really. And Malika, this is just, you have such a wonderful, it's been very nice.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a great community. I mean, we have kept each other company throughout the pandemic and have just kept on going. And it's a good thing we did. Because we get to, meet people like you, poets like you. Thank you all very much. See you next week. Be well. And I'm feeling for your wrist.
Oh, thanks. You do this every week?
We do indeed. Yeah. We would love to see you again. And I will pause the recording anytime somebody wants to read something new. Because that's definitely easy to do. It's been good to be in your company. Thanks, guys. See you next week. And remember to send to Redheaded Stepchild.